Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. It is me once again, screaming into the void of the internet. It's been a hot minute since I've recorded, basically while waiting on my freaking ride. But alas, I am here alone in the darkness, like good old times. But honestly, I'm prepared at this point because I've been bringing 2 jackets and stuff, so it does usually help pretty well. Considering that it's usually been getting to like 30 degrees, 40 degrees, heck, even 20 degrees sometimes, so yeah. But nonetheless, I wanted to talk about, how should I say this? I guess several topics, because I don't know how long my ride's going to take, but I might be here a while. So, several topics. It's interesting today. A coworker of mine, she's an elderly coworker. She's probably like the older person here, I think. She, I asked her what her ethnicity was, and she said she was a Filipino. And a lot of people thought that she was, Latino because she talks to a lot of Spanish people. But she's Filipino. And I kind of asked her, what is Philippines like? Because I always hear, from tourists, but I'd rather know what it's like from natives. They said it's nice, it's islands and stuff like that. So maybe it's similar to like where I am, which I am from Florida, but it's all the information I will give to you because people are clever. And she said something very interesting near the end of the conversation. She said, I should save up and get a wife in the Philippines. And I thought that was pretty funny. I was like, oh, really? They'll be happy to have me? And she was like, oh, yeah, definitely. And I thought that was cute because, you hear a lot about these topics that I'm going to talk about, Looksmaxxing, Geomaxxing, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just going to say maxing because for some reason in the doomer space, everyone just loves to add the word maxing to things, right? So I felt that these topics were, well overdue. And I kind of wanted to give my opinion on Looksmaxxing and Geomaxxing. So here we are. Looksmaxxing. Let's start with Looksmaxxing. At a glance, I think Looksmaxxing is pretty fine. There's nothing wrong with trying to make sure that you look as good as possible. There's nothing wrong with trying to maintain yourself. And, I maintain myself. I hear some people in this space try and tell you that they feel as though because they won't have a woman ever, right? And that is a possibility. I don't deny that. They feel like letting themselves go is fine, and I'm not going to tell you that, you shouldn't do that, but, I'm saying this at least from a standpoint of someone who lives in America, and I'm sorry if you hear that, that is just the good old fast food workers, getting off their wage cage as well, closing up, so they're being dinguses, so, you should expect that, but, when it comes down to America, I'm speaking from, experience, the obesity rate in America, okay, not overweight. The obesity rate of America is 80%. 80%. 80% of this country is so unhealthy. They are not just overweight. They are obese. Guys, I'm sorry. Perhaps you genuinely feel that your life is meaningless without a woman. Perhaps you genuinely feel like there is no reason for you to exist without a family, but I myself cannot ever see myself allowing myself to get to the point where I have to wake up every day. If you T-pose right now, guys, okay, if you T-pose, as they say, asserting dominance, I look like a, regular person. Now, I'm not meaning this to be offensive, I'm just being honest, this is just truth, obesity is abnormal. I look like a regular person. If an obese person T-poses, their skeleton is literally suffering, gravity is pulling on their arms because of the excess fat. Their belly is drooping, so it's more pressure on the spine. Nothing is healthy about having all of that fat, on your freaking body. You're carrying around tons and tons and tons of weight, so I don't really share the sentiment that, we should just let ourselves go, but I'm also not going to pretend for a moment, that I approve of some of these people basically saying stuff like, oh, well, we need to just look max as much as possible, and we need to try and be just like these giga chads and stuff like that, to where it gets to the point where it's just outright body modification, just like the freaking trans testicles, but I guess on a more acceptable level, because it's very interesting that people talk about the trans testicles, and trust me, I'm no fan of them, but they talk about them, and then they talk about how, okay, well, we should file our jawlines to make sure that they look as giga chad as possible, and then you have the worst of the worst, which is what I'm hearing now, which is the whole breaking your bones to get taller. Bro, if you care that much about pussy and you care that much about having kids, I genuinely do feel going to the next point, Geomaxxing is a better option. That is an infinitely better option than literally destroying your body, you know, filing off bone and stuff just to look a certain way. Like, I hate that men in general have this notion that, you know, like, outside of a family, we have no identity. You know, like, and it just shows how brainwashed they are, because, like, think about just how many of these gals, you know, genuinely just could give a rat's arse about us, right? And could care less about if anyone cares that they're hoeing around and all kinds of stuff. And yet, guys, like, you're still so attached to this facade of love and family and stuff like that. When I hate to break this to you guys, if we did not grow up with Disney and stuff like that, and we did not grow up with all this stuff, we would not feel the way that we do about love, okay? Like, this is in the grand scheme, a very new way of seeing the world, okay? Most people just got together for convenience, you know, like, this idea of love and all this crap, that didn't exist, okay? You just felt that, okay, can we get along? Okay, like, can we afford each other, essentially? Like, can this chick afford to be here and stuff like that? Because sometimes, again, the guy would be paid an hour. This idea that, like, only women were, like, bought and stuff like that was not the case, okay? Like, sometimes, to try and settle down a young buck who wanted to explore, they say, oh, no, sonny, you're going to take care of this chick, and it's going to be your responsibility, and you're going to work this land. So, they pay for the guy to, you know, marry her and stuff like that. But the fact of the matter, guys, is love to me is a new concept, and some people try and say that when you let go of it, it's just because you feel like you could never get it. And I'm just going to tell you guys straight up, I'm saying this as somebody who is more, what shall we say, more, I don't know, like, it's not that I haven't ever had girlfriends, because, okay, that's not true. I have had girlfriends, you know, plural. And I'm just going to let you guys know, okay, like, all of them see things the same way. All of them want to, at some point or another, okay, they want to be spoiled. And what that means is not necessarily that, you know, they want attention and love and romance. No. They do not want that. What they want is somebody to just take care of them. You know, nothing else. But in their mind, taking care of them is not providing protection or, you know, security. It's a certain lifestyle. And, you know, like, I'm just being honest, guys. When I look back at my relationships, it just came up to money so quickly, you know, like, it would begin and lead with, like, you know, getting to know each other. But then, you know, after a little bit, the money would just be an issue. You know, not an issue, but, like, it would just be a constant. And it's sad. It's really freaking sad that, like, every time you turn around, right, immediately, it's just money. Money. And it's not, there's no concern about if you're being overworked. There's no concern about how much of a burden you're carrying. It's just, can he give me money? How much can he give me? Can he give me more? It just gets to a point where, for me personally, okay, I'm speaking from experience, I just don't understand how anyone feels like that's love. I don't understand how they feel like that's a connection. I don't understand how they feel like that is what they're missing in life, is to just have somebody there, and they're only there as long as it's convenient. Because I'll tell you guys straight, for me personally, what I really want now, honestly, is not a wife or anything like that. What I would prefer, personally, I would prefer a mistress, and not a dominatrix, okay? I don't mean it like that. I'm not talking about, like, some freaking chick pegging or some bullcrap. I'm talking about somebody, okay? Somebody who is essentially like a medieval style mistress, where it's like, you didn't love each other and stuff like that. There was no romance between you. But, you know, she was willing to just, like, you know, let you hit. And as a result, you know, she either had an allowance or she lived in the same house. But it wasn't, again, on marital terms. Now, if things got crazy, she'd get, you know, the boot, as they say. And honestly, considering that I'm talking about, you know, like, geomaxxing, you know, that does exist. You know, they call them, like, live-in maids over there and stuff like that. And, you know, in Southeast Asia and other places, like, you can just straight up have a chick live with you, and she's just basically the maid that you can, you know, smash, so to say. But here's my thing, personally, when it comes to geomaxxing. I hate the way that these guys, you know, the passport bros, you know, get into this delusion where they're like, oh, well, these chicks are actually different. That's not true, okay? They just have a different method about going about what it is that they want from you, which is the same thing that all the gals want. And that's resources, okay? They all want the resources. They just have a different way of going about it. But I kind of mentioned this when I took my coworker out to dinner. And I talked about this as we, ate dinner. This restaurant that we're at, which is what I mentioned to him, does not give a rat's arse about us. And gals, in a certain aspect, are the same, But it is how they go about it that is interesting. You see, at the end of the day, if a restaurant openly treated you like garbage, there is a very small likelihood that you probably go back there unless that food was absolutely astronomically good, right? Now, if that restaurant treats you well, regardless of the fact that you know in your heart that this restaurant does not care about you, you'll go back, right? So when it comes down to it, I understand at a glance, the passport bros and stuff like that saying that, well, these girls over here, they're different and they love you and blah, 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 blah. But let's not get it twisted. It's all manipulation to secure your resources and make sure that you stay and provide for them, The thing is, at least over there, they're willing to keep up the act to death, hopefully to death, right? Because over here, they don't even pretend, okay? They treat you like crap in America, and you're just supposed to take it. And then when they're ready to just dip, not only do they get to just get away for all those years of treating you like crap, probably denying you intercourse and all that stuff, emotional abuse, all kinds of stuff, but they then get to take your life's labor away via divorce. And to me, I think that, yes, honestly, geomaxing is a good alternative, because a lot of guys say they have nothing to live for here and stuff like that. And I say, you know what, maybe you're right, but I do kind of wonder why some of them wouldn't consider, just at least working to just passport, and get out of here. Because if you hate it over here, at least over there, the chances that you would, do well is just, astronomically better. A previous coworker of mine just last year, right before the holiday season, he went to, I can't remember if it was Mexico or Venezuela. I don't remember. But listen, technically speaking, this is a guy at a wage gauge. This is a guy who does pay child support and stuff like that. And he still managed to save up enough to, go over there. And he did visit, some gals and stuff like that. And he had a good time. And that's what I'm trying to get at here, guys, is, if what you do care about is family, I do think that is an option. Just geomax, as I say, because what's the point of America? What has America really done for us besides give us absolute hell, We don't have enough money to buy houses here. We don't have enough money to raise kids. The gals here treat us like garbage. So if what you do want, speaking for you, okay, I can't speak for myself because I'm going to give my thoughts on this in a minute, is a family and a woman and a wife and all that good stuff, then why not just geomax, Why not just work here a bit? Even if it's just, say, for 5 years or something like that, save up, try and, limit your spending and stuff like that, and see if you can try and secure a position overseas. And even if you have less money, at least you got a wife, because if that's what you guys feel will keep you here, then I do think, because the thing is, guys, you have to work for something. I know that you want to believe that at any point in history, you got the free puss, but guys have always had to work for it. It just is what it is. You've either had to work for it with the land, work for it fighting off invaders, work for it some way. You're going to have to work. This is just the lot that we get because we were born XY, okay? They were born double X, so they have a degree of privilege, but let's not pretend like they can't be, overpowered. So it does come with certain issues here, Don't think that just because America, has shown this image of, the privilege, that is what it is. Because, listen, let's be real. The first world is not the third world. And the third world is a lot bigger than the first world. And what I mean by that is, overall, in the grand scheme, there are more third worlders than there are first worlders. Most people in the world live in squalor, okay? This idea of female privilege exists, in the West and stuff. Over in there, those people are getting snuggled. They're in, sex slavery. There is a reason why the red light districts there are so massive, okay? Let's just be honest about it. So, don't get it twisted. But here's my opinion on that. I have gotten so used to all of this knowledge here, guys, that I can't sit around and pretend that I would even be capable of love at this point, okay? I can't. I know that it doesn't exist. I know that this chick doesn't like me. And so what am I supposed to do, Let's theoretically say that I do what my coworker said, the chick that I mentioned, right? Go to the Philippines, get a young little thing, and just go over there and try and start a family, right? I don't have an attachment, okay? I just can't, I cannot forget how I was treated all this time. And so many people try and say, oh, well, she's not her and stuff like that. No, but she thinks like her, and at the end of the day, she has the same brain, just like at the end of the day, most of the guys have the same brain. Listen, just like any other guy, you know, I do get aroused and stuff like that, but I don't let it rule me. But at the end of the day, I still have the same brain as a lot of guys. I can still be as freaky, as they say, and just thirsty for puss and stuff like that, but I choose not to let it rule me. Just because they think or behave differently over there, don't think that that doesn't mean that they are still not, at the end of the day, gals. For me, I can't let it go. I can't just pretend like how we have been treated, you know, as guys everywhere, the usability, the disposability. I can't just pretend like I'm not aware of that, and I can't just let it go and just pretend that I'm in love and stuff like that. I just can't. I can't. Because it's not right. It's not right how we have been treated. It's not right that we have to bust our balls to the point that we're just about to, like, just freaking mentally collapse, sometimes physically collapse, all for the puss. And the moment that it is not convenient, we're just gone. I can't just pretend. I can't pretend that hasn't happened to us. So I can't just lie here and say that, yeah, I think I'd be capable of loving her, because I don't. I genuinely don't. I don't think I'm capable of loving a gal anymore. I don't like what has happened. I've learned the game, and I just don't like it. You know? I think the most honest exchange now, these days, is just straight up, you know, escorts and stuff like that. Ideally, I would like I mentioned, a mistress and stuff like that. I think that'd be cool. But I also live in America, and here's another thing. Like, I like owning guns. I like owning weapons and stuff like that. I don't like... If I go over there, you know, I basically don't have any weapons. I don't have any way to defend myself. And when the government gets out of the line, I have no way to sell. I have no way to protect my family. Realistically speaking, that's... You know, a lot of people say that, hey, listen, even if you had all these guns, you're not going to need them. And that's probably a true statement. Probably. For the most part, there are many people who have, like, guns and ammunition, and they train with it, and they've never had to use it in self-defense, stuff like that. And that's fine. But I'd rather have something and not need it than need it and not have it. Especially when it comes down to self-defense, and especially when it comes down to tyranny and oppression. Because, listen, I am living proof, especially in America, that, hey, listen, these cocksuckers have boundaries. 6 years ago, everybody's favorite year, 2020, you can't look at me and tell me that the government and all of the neighbors didn't get freaking, you know, brainwashed with propaganda into just, you know, just tattletaling on people, hauling off to freaking concentration camps with quarantine and stuff like that. You can't tell me that that didn't happen. You know, like, oppression does happen, and I want a way to defend myself. So I myself can't really see myself geomaxing, but I know that I speak only for myself. You know, if you guys really do value this stuff, then I do think that geomaxing probably is an option, you know, because your looksmaxxing won't really need to matter as much over there. It really won't. And just the money, you know, which does suck. But like I mentioned, you know, like, this is just kind of the burden that we bear because we were born XY. And I'm not going to pretend like the XXs don't bear any burdens either way, because like I mentioned, you know, don't get it twisted. The first world is not the third world, and I'm telling you, it's amusing to me that all these double X chromosomes vote for all of the third worlders here, and then they're shocked that they're getting struggle snuggle, you know, because that is what is going on consistently in the third world, you know. Do not let this image of privilege here get you confused that this is like how the world operates as a whole when it comes down to double X chromosomes. It's not. It's not at all. Not by a long shot. But I do think that this is kind of a good stopping point. You know, I got what I really wanted to say off my chest. As far as the safe way going, you know, at least on the good old screw tube. And on that note, honestly, I would like to say that I do have my desk set up, and I could set up my PC, but it's a small desk, so I kind of have to, like, move my television in order to set up the PC, and then vice versa. So what I'm probably going to do is, still for a while, I'm probably not going to have anything, but you'll see it at some point, you know. But I want to thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. There's life beyond your pain, guys. Endure the bad days to get to the good ones. God bless. I'll see you guys next time.